begin by outlining the structure of my presentation. First of all, I'm going to start by presenting the Balkan political context, the political context of the Balkans in the period I'm studying. I've studied the Macedonian question in the Balkans. In the second section, I'm going to talk about the model, the triadic analytical model of wait a minute, just a moment. Yes, of Brubaker. Now, Brubaker's model and its application to the Macedonian question. And thirdly, I'm going to showcase this application with a little case study on the formation of the Armenian national movement in Macedonia. Now, first, I'm just going to close this because if I speak freely, it's going to be simpler. First of all, I should begin by saying that Macedonia is at the beginning, starting from the middle of the 19th century and up to the beginning of the 20th century, the focus of immense interest from the neighboring Balkan states. It is immensely coveted by Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, and even to a certain extent Romania, due to its strategic position. It is traversed by several important trade routes, some of them really ancient, like the Egnatian Road from Roman times. It has Salonika, which is we're talking about historical Macedonia here, so Macedonia historically, as a geographical concept, stretches down into northern Greece, modern northern Greece, so it includes Salonika, which is the second largest city in European Turkey, second only to Constantinople. It's a major trading port, it's extremely economically important, and also Macedonia's closeness to the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles makes it extremely interesting for the great powers, because anyone who can reach the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles via Macedonia can control trade from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Now, in a way, in this period, what we see with the Balkan states is that they're mimicking the great powers' policies, politics of balance of power. So there's a balance of power politics going on in Europe, and the Balkan states are trying to do the same thing in the Balkans. Namely, kind of monitor each other, make sure nobody has too much power. And really the key to hegemony in the Balkans is at this time Macedonia. So whoever gets a bigger chunk of Macedonia, or ideally all of Macedonia, gains immense political weight in the Balkans. So this all makes Macedonia very interesting to the Balkan states, trying to end Ottoman dominion in the Balkans for good, because Macedonia is part of the Ottoman Empire still, even after 1878. So, the problem for the Balkan states is that they have to justify an annexation of Macedonia, or a part of Macedonia. And the ideological tool they use to this effect is the principle of nationalities, which is the cornerstone of statehood pretty much in Central and Eastern Europe. So they, I think everybody is familiar with this principle, the idea that every nation should have its own state, and every state should more or less correspond to the geographical layout of the national population. The problem rising before Balkan nations is that by the middle of the 19th century, the Macedonian population, which lives in the Ottoman Empire, operating on a pre-national principle, the Ottoman population is divided into religious communities called millets, not into national communities. So this Macedonian population doesn't have any kind of national identity to begin with. So the problem for the Balkan nations is how do we instill a national identity to this population, thus persuading them that they are Serbian, Romanian, Greek, so on and so forth, Bulgarian. So propaganda movements are initiated in Macedonia, funded by the aforementioned Balkan states. Cultural organizations are founded, schools are being built in Macedonia, meant to acculturate the population to the national cultures of said country. So there's this huge ideological and in the end even military, increasingly militarized competition between the Balkan states for the hearts and minds of the Macedonian populace. Usually this kind of situation is seen as an open and shut question of national states competing against each other for political gains. So it's nationalisms, state-funded nationalisms competing against each other. Brubaker contends that this dyadic model, which these two nations fighting it out for a certain territory or for a certain population, is a simplification of the true situation. And in fact, you have a third element, which is the national minority, which is caught in the middle of this situation. Now, what Brubaker makes extremely clear is that when he's talking about these three elements, which are, in his view, a nationalizing nationalism, which is a state-funded nationalizing nationalism seeking to homogenize the population, and pretty much what's happening in Serbia, we've been seeing on France to a certain extent. So it's a certain kind of nationalism. Then you have the external homeland nationalism of a country which claims that a population exterior to its borders, which are not its citizens, are notwithstandingly akin to them. So it says these people are part of our people, even though they're not citizens. So we have to protect this minority outside our borders, this diaspora outside our borders. And the third group, the national minority in question, which has to negotiate a path between these two camps, in a way, vying for its attention and its allegiance. Brubaker makes it very clear that these three camps are not, these three nationalisms do not designate hard ethnic realities. They designate political stances. So they're political constructions. They have nothing to do with ethnic reality, if ethnic reality indeed exists. He sees them as being a nexus of interrelated, intermonitoring political fields which monitor each other and react to each other's movements. And this leads to a sort of what he uses to explain in one of his most famous studies. He uses this scheme to explain the outbreak of the Serbo-Croatian War. He says that basically you have a triadic model with a nationalizing Croatian state, or which has claim to statehood in the name, and then a external homeland, a Serbian external homeland, and in the middle a Serbian minority in Croatia. So you have these three fields which kind of monitor each other, feed upon each other's discourses, and this leads to a very, very, very rapid acceleration of violence and to the outbreak of war. And a very important idea that I think, to me, seems important, that Brubaker talks about is that we should look at these kind of phenomena, and we should see history not only as the result of historical accumulation of long-term developments, but also as a result of contingency, of just happenings, accidents, which tie into each other and lead to extremely rapid accelerations of events. Now, in trying to apply this model to the Macedonian question, there is one modification, one alteration that we have to make in Brubaker's model. There are several, but this is the most important one. The fact that all of the nationalisms, state-funded nationalisms, Bulgarian, Serbian, Greek, Romanian, acting in Macedonia, are actually acting as nationalizing nationalism, so trying to actively acculturate the local population to their national identity, while always presenting themselves as righteous homeland nationalisms, rising to protect their beleaguered minority, external minority, so-called external minority. And of course, while presenting the other rival nationalisms as being aggressive nationalizing nationalisms which are trying to denationalize their legitimate diaspora. So you have this kind of only nationalizing nationalisms which present themselves outwardly at the level of the discourse as homeland nationalisms. And in the middle you have this, these minorities, which are, you know, well, kind of like the Slavic population on the one hand of Macedonia, which is being contested by Bulgaria, Serbia, and partially even by Greece, and the Vlach population on the other side. We have Greece and Romania contesting this population. You have these populations being forced into constructing themselves as national minorities of either Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, or Serbia. So this is the general framework. Now, in applying this model to the Greek-Romanian interplay, to the case of the Aromanian movement, well, first I have to explain, I guess we've been talking about this already, the Vlachs, the Aromanians. Now, I should clarify one thing. As pertaining to Macedonian Vlachs, not those in Serbia, that's more complex. The Aromanian, or Armun, which is not, it's actually not Aromanian, it's Armenian, is the ethnonym they use for themselves inside the community, and Vlach is the ethnonym that the other Balkan peoples use to designate them. So we have an interior ethnonym and an exterior ethnonym. So we're talking about the same population, basically. We're talking about Macedonian Vlachs or Aromanians, or Armenians. So here we have a situation, we have a population which has been heavily Hellenized ever since the 18th century. They have taken an active part in the Greek national movement, and they were viewed by, especially the Vlachs in the southern part of Macedonia, were viewed by the Greek politics as legitimately Hellenic. On the other hand, they have this local dialect, which is basically a dialect of Proto-Romanian, which is kind of the language, the root language from which both Romanian and the Vlach dialects span from. And at the moment when the Romanian state starts taking an interest in them, they start migrating, part of them start migrating to the Romanian camp and declaring themselves to be Romanian. And this spurs kind of triadic logic with the Greek state, Greek and Romanian nationalizing nationalisms, and a minority in the middle, which are the Aromanians. What happens is that the community, the political field of this minority is immediately split in half by the two, by the gravitational forces of the two nationalizing nationalisms that are combating for them. So they're split into Romanophile Aromanians, who are usually of a humble origin socially, and who also find the Romanian school system in Macedonia as a means of social rise, and the so-called Grecoman Aromanians, who are usually people who are tied in with the Greek merchant elite and who have no interest of jeopardizing their trade relations or their good relations with the Greek community. So they say they opt to declare themselves Greek, although they usually make a distinction saying we are culturally Hellenic and ethnically Aromanian. So they make this distinction, they say we're not ethnically Greek. But this depends, of course, on the context, as we're talking about context of their interpolation, the context where it happens. But these two camps become increasingly radicalized, and we're going to see now exactly how this acceleration of conflict happens, as described by Brubaker in his study on the Serb-Croatian War. It also applies to the Armenian question, where you have basically, it's a movement which takes root somehow by chance. It doesn't start with Romania's massive involvement. It starts with a few Aromanians which come into contact with Romanian culture in various contexts. They kind of are impressed with the similarity in language, and they choose to, they actually pressure would be a good thing, governments to
5 minutes.
okay, to support their claim to a separate identity. So what happens, for instance, is Dimitri Kazakovich, which is one of his an important figure. He is a Vlach, an Aromanian from Macedonia, which goes to joins his uncle's business in Budapest, and there he enters into contact with the first verges of intellectual Aromanian nationalism. There are some Aromanians which publish PhD theses on the Aromanian language around the time, start of the 19th century, in Budapest and Vienna. And then he comes to Wallachia, and he enrolls in the army. And when the two countries, Wallachia and Moldavia, unite in 1859, and Romania as a state is born, he starts publishing lots on the Aromanians and lobbying for a movement to be born, which this movement is born in 1860 with the birth of the Macedon-Romanian Committee, which reunites pro-Romanian Armenian activists and members of the Romanian political and intellectual elite. Now, this is the birth act, if you will, of the Romanian nationalizing nationalism in Macedonia, because this committee immediately starts issuing manifestos which it propagates in European Turkey, in the Balkans, in the Ottoman Balkans, saying Aromanians rise and all that. It's not the original discourse, but it immediately has an effect. There's a tailor in Constantinople which finds this one of these manifestos. He decides to become a Romanian teacher. He goes to Bucharest, he's schooled there, and he gets funding to create the first Romanian school in Macedonia, in his native town. Immediately, the Greek political nationalizing field reacts, and he is practically destituted. The Greek clergy, the patriarchal clergy, makes pressure to have him destituted, and he has to leave his position. Later on, the Romanian field reacts by lobbying the Sultan for rights, for recognizing the Romanians' existence as a separate community in the empire, and ensuring their protection. And this bears fruit in 1878, where the Sultan issues a decree instructing the local Ottoman authorities to protect the Aromanians and forbidding the Greek clergy from getting involved with the Aromanian movement. So this is the Romanian field's reaction to the Greek field. And this builds up. I can go into detail, but it's not necessary. And gradually from this conflict, the third player, the Armenian minority, takes form, and you see it, for instance, in the moment when you have this teacher, Apostolos Margaritis, Apostle Margaret, who starts teaching he's a teacher in a Greek school, and he starts teaching both Aromanian and Greek in school, because he notices that school children have trouble learning the subjects because they're taught in Greek and they don't know Greek. So he starts using both languages in conjunction. Immediately the Greek circle, the Greek political field reacts, and there are pressures to have him destituted. The local Vlach community, which is majority in that particular village, reacts by saying, no, we want this teacher, he's doing a good thing for our children. So you have the minority side of it manifesting at a local level, and this minority nationalism takes an ever-increasing role as the conflict between Greece and Romania escalates. You have, starting from the late 1890s, Greek armed bands being sent from Greece across the Greek-Macedonian border, and these bands make great pressure on Vlach communities to declare themselves Greek, and in response, the Vlach communities, which are pro-Romanian, form their own bands, and you have this guerrilla warfare which escalates with these interlocking monitoring fields. At a certain point, Romania starts covertly funding the minority, so kind of like the Romanian political field, nationalist political field, starts funding the a Macedonian minority field with sending on rifles, but this is all very, very secretive. Although officially Romania is declaring itself non-violent. So you have these monitoring fields, which this conflict, this on and off civil war goes all the way to 1913, to the outbreak of the Second Balkan War. And basically, if you want to sum up of the whole phenomenon, you see in 1905, when the Sultan issues a decree which says that Aromanians are a community and should be protected. This leads to the Greek field reacting by breaking diplomatic relations with Romania, which is a situation which lasts from 1905 to 1911. And this diplomatic relations are only resumed as a result of great international pressure on both sides, Romania and Greece. So to resume, I just wanted to show how you could apply the triadic model of the interlocking, mutually monitoring nationalisms in conjunction with Brubaker's other great idea, the fact that there is an eventful side to history. There is, in the intermonitoring of these fields, chaotic events can have great repercussions. The Aromanian national movement could have not existed if it were not for Dimitri Kazakovich, or this one person who just happened to have certain experiences, and it might have not existed were it not for that tailor who saw this manifesto. So you have the weight of the punctual event, which in conjunction with the mutually monitoring triadic nexus of political fields, national political fields, can lead to the acceleration or even to the birth of a national movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want me to carry on recording, or shall I stop now?
Stop.
Okay.